A police officer by the name of Matt Kenny shot and killed an unarmed black man by the name of Tony Robertson. Now, at this point, we don't have very many details about the shooting. There isn't any surveillance footage yet, if there is any at all. Officer Kenny was not wearing a body cam, so it's unlikely that there is any footage. But it all went down when the 19-year-old was allegedly going in and out of traffic, walking into traffic and then walking out. Someone had called the authorities to alert them about it. And then when Officer Kenny showed up, there was allegedly some assault that Robinson was allegedly part of. So he had to break into some home where Robinson was and try to arrest him. The officer claims that there was a physical altercation, and after that, he shot and killed Tony Robertson. Now, more details are coming out about Robinson, and it shows that he had attention deficit disorder, he had depression issues and anger issues as well. He was involved in an armed robbery with 4 other individuals back in 2014, and he got 3 years of probation as a result of that. But that case is not tied or involved in this current case. Nonetheless, those are the details that we know about him and what happened during that shooting.
And of course, it's easy to leak or to reveal information about somebody after they're already dead. We went to Tony Robertson for a comment, except he was dead. So we couldn't get any comment. And as usual, it's a cop that leaves no witnesses. Now, we don't know what happened. We don't, in terms of the blow by blow of what happened in that room. There's no video of it. Mm-hmm. There's no other witnesses. It's just a cop, you know, who conveniently, again, left no witnesses behind. And some now begin to speculate, is that why they shoot to kill? Because,
you know, you have no one to testify against you.
You know, when you got somebody to testify, they bring up inconvenient facts of how you got into the altercation in the first place. They have a different opinion, yada, yada. If you don't, if they're dead and you go into, for example, a grand jury indictment and you have a prosecutor who wants to help the cop get off, he can present only the cop side of the story. And there you have it, right? So, look, there's a perfectly, you know, large chance, whatever, significant chance, whatever you want to call it, that there was a conflict. And that, who knows, maybe Tony was responsible in some way. He obviously had the anger management issues, the bank robbery, yada, yada. I hate using the things that they leak about people after they die, but okay, I'm not. That's not my point. Mm-hmm. And could officer felt at some point in some sort of threat? I'm not surprised by that. Is there some small chance Tony Robertson started? It's possible. I don't know, right?
We don't know much.
No, but I do know that I've seen now, what, dozens or hundreds of cases where you have an unarmed person and a cop says, I had no choice but to shoot and kill him. No choice at all. See, I'm incredibly weak, and I don't want to take a 1% chance that I might get a scratch or two. So I, you know, taser, nah, baton, no. Calling for backup, retreating, I would never. That would hurt my ego a little bit. So I put a couple of bullets in him and ended his life. I've seen that movie. I've seen it a lot.
You know, I noticed something kind of interesting when it comes to this trend of police shootings, police shooting unarmed individuals. I feel like there's been a flood of these stories after the Zimmerman case, mm-hmm. right? Because the Zimmerman case was one where an armed person shot and killed an unarmed black teenager, right? Mm-hmm. And the whole defense was, well, there was a physical altercation, and the guy was using his body against me, and so I had no other choice but to defend myself by shooting and killing him. And now cops are using the exact same defense. I'm sure they might have been using the same defense before, but I just think it's interesting that we keep hearing the same story over and over again.
It reminds me of our foreign policy mistakes. Before the Iraq War, we warned on this show, and yes, we were around back then, that, hey, if you attack a country that didn't attack you, you're going to send the wrong message saying, hey, you might as well attack these guys. They're going to hit you whether you do or you don't, right? So there's no disincentive to attack them. They're coming for you either way, right? So I'm afraid the cops are doing the same thing here. You better get armed up against the cops because they're going to kill you whether you have a gun or you don't have a gun, whether you have a weapon or you don't have a weapon. So make sure if you know, are going to be in a confrontation that you have one. And that's a terrible, terrible message to send because I don't want people in armed confrontations with the cops. Yep. That's the worst possible scenario. So I don't want the cops to encourage that behavior. But when you, throughout the country, shoot at any sign of trouble, that's the message you send. I mean, if you look at me the wrong way, I'm going to execute you. I mean, we're a gun nut, gun obsessed country. Everybody's going to arm themselves.
So there is a difference in this story compared to the Ferguson story or the Eric Garner story. In this case, the police officials seem to be receptive and open to the idea of people protesting against the shooting. Okay, so the police chief of Madison released a statement and said, for those who do want to take to the streets and protest, his department would be there to defend, facilitate, foster those First Amendment rights of assembly and freedom of speech. So far, the protests have been nonviolent. Everything seems to be calm at this point. And the authorities are not trying to stomp on those protests and stop them from being active. So that's a good thing. And
look, don't get me wrong. Again, don't make the counter assumption either that Tony Robertson was an angel and he didn't do anything wrong and the cop must have been evil and racist and all those things. We don't know those things. To me, the most important is the macro point, the point we see all over the country, which is shoot first, ask questions later. Don't ever take a risk with your life. It's not an accident that all those cops, all in different jurisdictions, are making the same decision. They're now trained that way. Shoot and kill the minute there's a sign of danger. And that's not acceptable. That's not supposed to be the role of the cops.